Good evening and welcome to Blueprint Explosive Exclusive. Viewers, at a time when a narrative is being pushed suggesting that human error led to the Ahmedabad Air India crash, Times Now has accessed a clincher. Flight logs that sources say point towards several faults involving a doomed AI 171 flight. Now, these are logs that were recorded just before the flight took off. The data the Times Now has accessed is crucial because it suggests a series of electronic faults which can't be ignored. It's significant because there are attempts being made by some, including by Western media outlets like the Wall Street Journal, to squarely pin the blame on the pilots for the tragic crash. What is it that we're talking about that needs to be investigated by authorities? Let's take a quick look at the list of errors or faults that the flight logs mention and has been revealed by top sources to Times Now. The first we're talking about is the BPCU gateway. This is a system that controls electrical power routing, and therefore trouble in communication between the left and right paths could affect switch to backup power in case there is an emergency. There's also the flight control module. Why is this important? Because these are modules that control flying surfaces as far as the aircraft is concerned, and communication faults in these modules could be serious, as the flight control modules control the movement of the plane. There's also the general processing modules, which in fact there are warnings about. Now, these act like a mini brain for the subsystems within the aircraft. Now, the logs show faults in the generic processors which help manage and route commands. There's also the hydraulic interface module, a problem with electronics controlling hydraulic system in this aircraft that is reportedly coming out, and just of course a few minutes before the flight took off. There's also the window or the windshield system, where faults in systems manage heated windows, which could have led to the various faults as far as anti-fog or de-icing systems, but not as crucial as the first ones that we were talking about. But yet, this is a fault that we're apparently seeing as per top sources. Core maintenance computer function fault in the internal health monitoring of the computer. There's also the digital cockpit display. Now, this is quite significant because the captain's display unit had an electronic fault, potentially, which could affect charts, performance speeds, and other data that the captain and pilots are accessing. Now, this is what sources are indicating to Times Now. Viewers, we've told you about the communication fault in the BPU gateway. Let's now try and understand why these faults can have some serious consequences. What has been mentioned is that the system controls the electrical power routing. It could have had trouble communicating on the left and right paths, and while they don't directly light fires, they can break the chain of protective logic in an electric system if combined with other failures. And therefore, what does this mean? There is a risk of overheating. There is the risk of thermal events like battery fires in case this has actually happened. And what are we looking at in terms of what the AIB report mentions on this aspect? Remember, there are two black boxes. The EAFR in the aft had thermal damages to the housing. So the rear EAFR had some amount of thermal damage. The forward EAFR was burnt and covered in soot. Now, we know that the aircraft in the forward part, there was fire that broke out. The rear part, where possibly this black box was kept, there's thermal damage. If there's no fire there, where is this thermal damage coming from? Is it potentially from a battery that is faulty? And why are we saying this? The question arises of whether there was an electrical fault that led to this thermal event. This is another hypothesis that many are talking about. There's also the spot on the Boeing 787 Dreamliners past. At least 2 fire incidents that were reported in the initial years of the Dreamliners in Japan, which led to the FAA grounding all Dreamliners being operated by US Airlines. Let's take a quick look at what had happened in that case as well. On 7th of Jan 2013, there was a Japan Airlines flight JL008. It was the first serious safety incident involving the Dreamliner. After the passengers disembarked, the plane caught fire. Flames and heavy smoke from the rear electronics bay. We'd seen fire also start from the APU, which is the lithium-ion battery in the auxiliary power unit, or the APU that's mentioned over here. Cause? Thermal runaway in one of the battery cells. On the 16th of January 2013, it's an ANA flight, or All Nippon Airways flight, NH692. Now, in this 787 Boeing aircraft, it was forced to make an emergency landing. Pilots noticed a burning smell and warning lights. On the 13th of January, the FAA then grounded all Dreamliners operated by US airlines. And this is, of course, what we see in terms of what has transpired. Now, in the second fire incident, warning lights were noticed. Something similar was described by the lone survivor of AI-171. Observed green and white light inside the plane seconds before the crash. Listen in.
अच्छा, थोड़ा सा बता पाएं, जब जैसे ही टेक ऑफ हुई फ्लाइट, क्या हुआ था और अचानक से कैसे हादसा हुआ?
टेक ऑफ के बाद 1 मिनट अंदर ही जब टेक ऑफ हुआ ना, तो सडनली 5-10 सेकंड कैसे लगा जैसे स्टक हो गया वो। बाद में से मेरे को लगा कि कुछ हुआ। बाद में प्लेन में लाइट ऑन हो गई, ग्रीन और व्हाइट। बाद में वो पता नहीं, वो प्लेन टेक ऑफ ज्यादा करने के लिए वो रेस बोलते हैं क्या दिया होगा ऐसा कुछ, और सीधा स्पीड में ही घुस गया।
All right, and Arunil is joining us. Arunil, is very significant because, there are several hypotheses that have to be ruled out before they can conclusively say that this is the cause of a crash. What experts are telling us, and share with us what are explaining to you as to why this electrical failure theory is borne out by the flight logs that not just are there in the DFDR, but also are shared with the airline manufacturer and the airline, which is transmitted through these messages, which reveals a limited amount of such data to the airline as well as to the aircraft manufacturer. Arunil.
Well, Madhav, good evening to you. While everybody is blaming the two pilots who are no more now to give their statement or their justification, our team of reporters, Times Now, we have dug deeper. We basically have done this investigation wherein 8 glaring errors or massive technical faults related to the same Boeing 787 aircraft which crashed in Ahmedabad have come to the fore. The real question is whether the flight was capable enough to fly itself. Why all those points were not mentioned in the AIB? We basically have sent out a proper mail to Air India, DGCA, to AIB as well, asking them about all the pertinent questions, mentioning about those 8 glaring errors. 6 tough questions were asked to Air India, to AIB, to DGCA. Air India basically has responded, putting the ball in the court of the AIB, also saying that the matter is under investigation and they won't be reverting as of now. Now, it is important to discuss this, Madhav. You also pointed about the fact that in 2013, there were 2 similar Boeing 787s belonging to the Japan Airlines, which caught fire when they were mid-air because of overheating of batteries. Now, the errors that you have mentioned, this can lead to an electric failure as well. This may lead to electric failure. So why these points are not mentioned in the AIB report? What does Air India wants to respond to it? What actions DGCA basically had taken with respect to whether this flight was actually worthy to take a flight? All these questions clearly.
Well, it's not entirely clear because, Arunil, admittedly, these are warning signals that came just before the takeoff. In such a situation, who was aware of this data? Was the airline aware of it? Were the regulators aware of it? Was it available to the pilot? All of these are questions because at the moment, certainly these are concerning information that is coming in. And could this be the possible reason for what transpired as far as the ill-fated 171 AI flight is concerned? Arunil, I'd like to thank you for joining us, but we're going to keep coming back to you for more breaking news and updates through the course of this bulletin. We'll quickly take this across to our guests joining us at the moment. Joining us at the moment is Captain C.S. Randhawa, who's the president of the Federation of Indian Pilots. We have Captain Amit Singh, aviation expert and founder of Safety Matters Foundation. Captain Sanjay Karve is an aviation expert joining us. Wing Commander K. Dinesh is an air crash investigator, and Y. Sharma is CEO of Chimes Aviation. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. Captain Amit Singh, let me come to you first. There is a situation where there are these messages which are transmitted with this limited amount of error. How reliable is this data? And should somebody have rung the alarm bell and not allowed the flight to take off? How are we to look at these logs of this information that's coming in at the moment? Captain Amit Singh.
Thank you, Madhav. Looking at the faults if you look at the faults individually, they may not be major, but the nature of the faults is such that when they combine, they what we call it latent threats. So they may be sleeping, but when they are combined with something else which is more pressing or more volatile, then these can also become combined and become bigger threats. For example, like you just highlighted, the rear EFTR, the EAFR, while there was no fire there, if you look at the condition in the preliminary report, it has suffered thermal damage, and there is no soot on it. If there was a fire, there would be soot, and the metal casing has got wrangled and melted. So the possibility is that the very high flash point, about 1500 degrees Celsius, which is possible when a lithium-ion battery explodes or catches fire. This we have seen in the past, and this is a worldwide issue, not just aircrafts, but even cars. Like you have the Tesla cars with batteries. Recently, there was a car which what the battery ignited. It took 50,000 gallons of water to use a fire. So that is the kind of energy that is contained in that battery. So most likely, the battery and the EFR are in close proximity. So that is the reason why there was no fire externally. Internally, there had been a fire. I don't know when, during taxi, during takeoff. Now, when we combine it with the BPCU, which controls the logic of charging and load control. So if the charging or the discharging has failed, there could be a possibility of overcharging and the thermal runaway in the battery. So the battery overheats and catches fire. Combined with the electrical problems, send out different signals to the sensors. And even though engines have their own generators, they may get sensors input from other places, which may be erroneous. So that is a possible area or a scenario that the
Okay. There is. Let me get in a quick word from Wing Commander K. Dinesh as well. Wing Commander K. Dinesh, is this a possible scenario that needs to be investigated? Because Captain Amit Singh and what is coming out through sources as far as the electrical failure theory is concerned is that this is certainly there are indications that this could be. We are not drawing any conclusions, but this is certainly a probability that needs to be exhaustively investigated before we jump the gun and say, look here, it's the pilot's fault. Has that been done in the preliminary report? Wing Commander K. Dinesh.
So the preliminary report doesn't speak of anything about all those faults that you mentioned. So let me take you to the investigative procedure per se. The investigative procedure is quite an organized procedure in which they will look at all possibilities that emerges either from a visual evidence or from the flight data recorder evidence. And the fact that they have not mentioned anything of that sort in the preliminary report, all these people are there, and that they work together in the initial part of the investigation, because that is a ICAO mandate that complete access of all the information during the investigation has to be given to all the accredited representatives. So from that, it's impossible to believe that the Aircraft Investigation Board has not taken note of anything of that sort in the flight data recorder and not acted upon that. And even if they have acted upon, I think a mention not made in the preliminary report, I don't think it's possible. Okay. So I think it's a lot of hypothesis, a lot of hypothesis in the media, and very little of substance and content.
Okay, is there very little substance and content? We'll come to that, but we did reach out to Air India on this very story, and they have issued a statement to us saying that it is fully cooperating with the AIB and other authorities. Let's put that out, the information of the Air India statement, saying that we are with other authorities as the investigation progresses. It says it cannot comment further given the active nature of investigation. So that's a statement coming from Air India in response to this. Captain Randhawa, are you surprised by the Air India statement, and do you believe that this is a theory that also needs to be investigated before arriving at any conclusion? Captain Randhawa.
See, first and foremost thing, I would like to say we have again addressed this problem to the Minister of Civil Aviation today, giving our thought process relating to the 2009 17th of January, where the NI aircraft landed at Osaka from Haneda, Tokyo, in which both the engines flamed out on landing because the switch remained on the air mode and it did not allow the reversers to be deployed. It cut off both the engines. So now, you see, there has been an interview by one Inspector General of U.S. Transport, Ms. Mary, who has categorically said that that time when this incident took place in Osaka, right, and this has to be taken into cognizance when you are investigating this present accident, because this is after 6 years such a thing has happened. Could be that the now landing gear has not gone up. So I believe that the aircraft is remaining on the ground mode. It has not gone into the air mode, because the transcript of the CVR also is very sketchy. They should have given the transcript right from the time the takeoff clearance was obtained.
Absolutely.
Till the time the aircraft crashed.
There's just two sentences, what one pilot says to the other and the response. Let me take that across to Vayan Sharma, CEO of Chimes Aviation. Vayan Sharma, why should there not be a complete CVR transcript that will set all the speculation to rest once and for all? So for the context in which this communication between the two pilots happens.
See, that's very simple, that you have right now. And again, it's, looking at the nature, everybody wants the answers as quickly as possible. What you have is what is the preliminary report in which some data has been given. It is not a full disclosure of everything. Neither have all the parameters which get captured in the ATR have been put out in the public domain. For the recording, all of it is out in the public domain. Obviously, because we want the answers, we feel we should have it. The powers that be at AIB, they have their own logic to it, why they do not share the whole thing immediately. I believe in the NTSB investigations, they just do the whole thing out there in the public domain, but that's not how the AIB investigation proceeds. So in due time, maybe you will get a complete CVR. But right now, what is happening is that because the actual official data, which is what you can say certified data, that is very limited. That is the reason why we have, a huge amount of speculation out there where people are attributing the various causes that it could be, without the data being out there for us to. So you can go with the fire theory, you can go with the pilot error theory, you can go with some system failure.
So you're saying there's nothing conclusive, and I think that's pretty much what everyone is saying. Why is a section of media jumping to that conclusion, particularly the Western media, is certainly a pertinent question. And Captain Karve, I'd like you to come in on that. At this point of time where all the theories are out there, there's nothing that can be conclusively proved. Even what we are discussing is just a theory. Although there is some amount of data to substantiate that, and if it is not found part in the AIB report, then questions as to why it's not there certainly will arise. Why do you think that we have this situation where people are jumping to conclusions? Are there vested interests or corporate interests which want to ensure that the blame is pinned on the pilot? What's going on here?
Madhav, if you remember, previously also discussed this issue. From the time the ATC has given a takeoff clearance till the time the aircraft has crashed, it's been roughly 94 seconds. And in this 94 seconds conversation, we have precisely 1.5 sentence which has been put out in public domain. This leaves a lot of room for debate, discussion, and pointing fingers. Like it was pointed out, AIB may be having its own reason for not going with the entire transcript. But the question which needs to be asked and answered, why is the AIB reluctant in releasing the entire data of 90 odd seconds from the time the pilot monitoring has acknowledged the takeoff call?
All right.
Plenty of conversation takes place in the cockpit from the time the aircraft takes off till the time the landing gear goes up and the flaps go up. Not just 1.5 sentence. The second issue is, I'm sure a 787 has a HUMS, that is the health usage monitoring system, which is a real-time monitoring system. Where is the data from the humps?
Absolutely. There are several questions. Sorry, we're completely out of time. I'm so sorry, Captain Karve. I'm interrupting you there. I'd like to thank you, Captain Randhawa, Captain Amit Singh, Captain Karve, Wing Commander K. Dinesh, and Vayan Sharma. AIB itself has put out a statement saying that the purpose of AIB's investigation preliminary report is to provide information about what happened. It has to be seen in this light. It's too early to reach any definite conclusions. Investigation by AIB is still not complete, and final report will come out with root causes and recommendations. Appeals to all to wait for the publication of the final report. Also talking about sensitivity of family members and referring to Western media reports which have jumped to conclusions. We'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening.